For today's project, I'm going to be putting in a ceiling, which is pretty exciting because that'll finally make this bathroom an actual room. Now I knew that these joists were all out of whack, out of level, out of plane. So the first thing I did was I created a little shelf so I could put my laser line on it, and I could go through with a tape measure and put it against each joist at several different points. This way I can tell what what joists are high and which ones are low, and how high and how low they are, because the laser acts as a constant that I can measure all the joists against. Once I had that, I wrote it down, transferred it to a sheet of paper. Then I took that sheet of paper, typed it into the computer, and then finally I created kind of a heat map so you could see what points were highest and what points were lowest. I used 1/8 of an inch as the increments. After doing this, I got a pretty good bird's eye view of what was going on. As it's pretty obvious from the heat map, the entire left side of the ceiling needs to come down about 1/4 of an inch or more in some places. So I decided to add boards, 1/4 inch thick boards that I bought at the home store. So then I took the boards, clamped them on, glued them on, and when it came time to do the drywall, by the way, as an extra precaution, I used longer drywall screws so they would pierce through these boards and into the main joist, not just the little 1/4 inch boards. So here you can see the clamping. I took the clamps and went through. I had to do all this section by section, and there was a lot of clamping that needed to be done. Once it was all done, everything was ready to go. So then the next step was to put on the drywall. I measured the width of the drywall and then cut it to size. For this first piece, I wasn't worried about the length of it because it was going to be not as long as the whole ceilings. So I just measured the width, cut it in, and I was alone. So I used an adjustable quick support rod, which is really great. And I also used my head to hold up the drywall as I put the screws in. Now it only takes a few screws to hold the drywall up enough that you can let it go and start working through and doing the screws one by one. I also used the laser level shelf as additional support, kind of like as a ledger board. Now drywall is big and cumbersome, but it's not very heavy. Okay, so you can see the first piece went up pretty well. And the second piece here, what I've done is I put what's called a ledger board right there, so that way, since I'm working on this alone, I can just set the drywall into that board, and then that'll hold it up, so I don't have to worry about holding the whole big board up with just my 2 hands. And then I've got this board right here, which is sort of loosely tied in, or excuse me, screwed in. So what I'm going to do is, once the drywall board is up and sitting on that ledger, on that top of the ledger there, I'm going to take this and turn it, and then boom, I'll have enough support to start drilling in all the individual points that I need for the board. For the second piece of drywall, I measured the width for this one, but because I didn't have to measure the length of the first one, I forgot to measure the length for this one. And you can almost see the moment when I've got the drywall over my head in place and I realize it isn't going to fit. So after taking it back down, measuring the length, and cutting it, I was finally able to get this piece up. Again, the ledger board helped a lot, as well as my quick support rod. And once I got it in there, it was just a matter of adding screws. I typically do that every 12 to 16 inches. And that's it. I now have a fully realized room with walls, a ceiling, and a floor. And here's a picture of the completed project. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, or if you learned anything, be sure to like and subscribe.